Well, if you feel like your tax bill has been pinching you a bit more than usual, there might be a reason for that. Once again, the Fraser Institute has done a study on what Canadians pay in terms of taxes versus life's actual necessities. And it's once again staggering. Even with the Harper government's tax reductions over the years and some provincial government tax reductions, well, taxes are going up elsewhere. And when you add them all up, federal, provincial, municipal, booze, sin taxes, all of it, you might be blown away by the numbers. Let me read to you from the Fraser Institute's news release on their just released study. It says, in 2015, the average Canadian family, including single Canadians, earned $80,593 and paid $34,154 in total taxes, compared to $30,293 on housing, food, and clothing combined. That is a staggering statistic. Ben Eisen is the Director of Prosperity Studies at the Fraser Institute, joins me now from Toronto. Ben, thanks for taking the time on this. It's unfortunately the type of study you guys have done before, but a healthy reminder that government is still taking up a major chunk of our income.
Yeah, we have done it before, and we think it's important, one of the most important projects that we do, because as you said, taxes are the single largest expense for most Canadian families, and certainly for the average Canadian family. But we don't necessarily know exactly how much of our money is going to taxes each year. Some of it we see in the form of we see how much is taken off of our paycheck and income taxes and things like that. But we don't necessarily know how much we spend on sales taxes, fuel taxes, and all the other taxes we pay over the course of the year, because we don't pay it all at once, and we don't necessarily see it on a single place like our pay stub. So what we do is we bring it all together and get a clear sense of exactly how much we pay if you factor in all the taxes. And as you say, it's over 40% of your income. It's the single largest expense for most Canadian families.
You guys have been using 1961 as a benchmark for a long time and comparing those golden years that are, fresh in people's minds. Oh, the 60s were wonderful. They were great. But the tax bill's gone up almost 2,000% over that time period, hasn't it? How does that compare to how much housing's gone up or food's gone up? Is it going up at a much faster rate, the tax bill?
It's going up at a much faster rate, the tax bill, and that's the reason we present that nominal comparison, showing in actual dollars how much it's gone up, because it's been a fundamental change. The taxes have gone up much more than the other expenses, and that's why at the start of the period we looked at in the 1960s, the necessities of life, the items that you mentioned, food, clothing, and shelter, all of those combined ate up a significantly bigger chunk of people's income than taxes. And because the tax bills increased faster than everything else, taxes are now taking a bigger bite than the necessities of life. So yeah, the cost of everything's gone up, but the cost of taxes has gone up significantly more.
Well, if you were to speak to progressives that are always looking for new ways to find revenue tools, Kathleen Wynne's favorite term, they would say, well, this is the cost of living in a civilized society. This is the cost of having health care. This is the cost of having good government programs. How would you answer that? Is there truth in that? Or is this a case of having to pay for too many limos for Minister Philpott or too many photographers for Minister McKenna, and just multiply that by all the politicians across the country that are wasting tax dollars?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's absolutely essential that every dollar that come in be spent wisely, and that doesn't always happen, which is obviously regrettable and needs to be dealt with wherever it can be done. But I guess what I would say is that the purpose of this study is not to provide a value judgment on whether or not what we get in return for our tax bill is a good value, a bad value, or not. What it is to provide the hard numbers so people can make their own determinations. 42%, it's our largest expense. It's more than the necessities of life, and it's gone up a lot. If people now with that number can take a look, think about the public services they get, and ask themselves, is this worth 42% of my income? Is that appropriate? Is that fair? Is that the right amount? And we leave it to people to make those sort of value determinations. What we can do is provide the hard numbers. We can provide the measurement of how much we pay in taxes, and then it's up to individual Canadians to make a determination about the value they're getting for such a big chunk of their paycheck.
All right, let's go over some of those numbers that are in your study and in the news release on this, and just as a comparison. Now, the tax bill has gone up 1,939% since 1961. Food costs have risen by 645%. Clothing, 746%. Housing, I mean, we all know housing prices are through the roof, 1,425%. So even that hasn't gone up at the same level, and you guys even adjusted for inflation, and the tax bill's gone up by 152% in constant adjusted for inflation dollars, correct?
Yeah, well, we look at it three different ways. We look at just the numbers you just cited. We look at the actual nominal increase, just without any adjustment, so we can make comparisons to other things. That's the first way we look at it, and we see the tax bill's gone up more than all those other items that you mentioned. The second way, we adjust for inflation. So that people can just see, okay, constant dollars, how much has it gone up? It's gone up 152%. It's more than doubled over the course of that time. And then we look at the third way. Okay, what about taxes as share of your income? Incomes are rising. So, well, maybe if the tax bill's going up, that's okay because folks can afford it. So we compare it to incomes. And no, in fact, taxes as share of income have gone up quite a bit, from the low 30s at the start of our period to the mid 40s today. So we look at it three different ways to try and come up with different analysis and comparisons and to understand the issue better. And no matter how you slice it, there's a rapid increase in the tax bill over the course of the period, and it's having a big effect on the amount of money that Canadians have in their pocket after they're done paying taxes.
All right, so Ben, you say you're not looking for a value judgment on whether we get value for money, but you are the Director of Prosperity Studies with Fraser Institute. What does this do to prosperity if government takes up more of our paychecks, more of the economy? Does that help or hurt?
I think that the evidence is extremely strong that you can get to a point where the size of government affects economic growth and affects prosperity. International research places like the OECD have looked into this question and find it somewhat lower than we are today. So certainly the size of government affects growth, it affects prosperity. And on a human level, if you move back from sort of GDP statistics and talk about how much money do people have in their pocket, it's crucial to understand that if 42% of the dollar you earn is going to taxes, that's each of those dollars is money that you don't have for day-to-day expenses, to save for retirement, all kinds of things of that nature. So certainly the more money that's taken out of people's pocket, there's a big opportunity cost. That's money that people don't have for other things, and it's absolutely essential to keep that front of mind when we look at these comparisons and track these numbers.
All right, Ben, thanks for the time, and people can find out more at fraserinstitute.org, correct?
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.